Hi everyone, and welcome to our second webinar with myself and Morgan Ingram. Thank you for everyone for attending. Just by way of introduction, I'm sure that he doesn't need an introduction, but this is Morgan, the sales development expert, Supremo. Morgan, do you want to kind of expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, I can dive into it. So as probably most people on this call, maybe some AEs, but probably most people are SDRs, I started off as an SDR. So the cold calling, which we're going to talk about today, very well versed in that. Also, I've been destroyed on some cold calls as well. That happens. And I got promoted to an SDR manager. And then from there, got elevated by John Barrows, who has done a lot of sales training with like Salesforce, Slack, and Google to be a sales coach and trainer. So I've been doing that for the past 4 years. Zoom, like I mentioned, Google, Slack, Snowflake, those are different organizations that we train, and happy to dive into this cold calling piece here today.
Fantastic. It was really a real pleasure to have you again.
Yeah.
I'm David Bentham. I look after the SDR team here at Cognism. It's a 50-strong team at this point, which we built over time. My background's in door-to-door sales. That's where I started. 3 years of commission only, knocking on people's doors, and made the leap into SDRing shortly after that, and have kind of never looked back. So today, as Morgan just mentioned, we want to have a focus similar to how we did last time for many people that joined on cold calling. We've got some volunteers, hopefully they are here, who are going to jump on. They're going to do a bit of a role play with Morgan, and then we're going to hopefully lend some advice on maybe how those pitches can be improved, and what's really great about them. For everybody here, we'd love it to be as interactive as possible. Feel free, we've got some kind of pre-planned volunteers, but feel free to volunteer yourself to do that role play. The more the merrier, just in case we have any technical difficulties. So please post in the chat if you're up for it. Separately from that, if you've got any questions for us, post in the chat. Just to start off with, we always love to see how many people are here and where they're from. So I would love in the chat, everybody post, name, where you're tuning in from, what country. I'd love, we love to see an international audience, which we believe we have today. So yeah, make sure you're posting away in there. Alrighty, so to kick off, me and Morgan were actually having a conversation. We thought we'd start with this. Everybody loves a new year and a new year resolution, so we both agreed to share our top tips from tips on cold calling going into 2022, or our number one top tip. So I'll let Morgan kick this off. What's your top tip this year?
Yeah, so my top tip this year is more pausing. And I obviously did that for dramatic effect, but the thing is, like, more pausing is gonna help you this year, because when you pause on a cold call, and I'll give you exactly how long to pause with this, you're allowing yourself to embrace the objections that are coming, because you're gonna get a lot more objections than normal based on everything that's going on, and it allows you to truly listen to what the prospect is telling you so you can ask better questions. So my recommendation when I had a team, I would always say, let's pause for 1.5 seconds after someone is done talking, because typically what ends up happening is they continue to talk, and now you get more information, which is great for you. So the art of pausing is something that's my number one tip for this year. If you can master that, you'll see more conversions.
Amazing. Morgan, just a question on the back of that, because I'm
Yeah.
someone that I think people will be able to tell pretty quickly. I love to fill silence with just my own. So I'm sure it happens to a lot of salespeople. Do you have any advice for anybody on that, who kind of almost like they have their natural emotion towards it is like it feels like it's awkward? Is there any way that you recommend kind of overcoming that?
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly what I did, because I'm the same way. I always feel like I had to say more. I didn't embrace the silence. I thought if it was silence, it would hang up on me, right? Like, those are things that happen. So I would say number one, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I actually recommend people to get a stress ball. Not to say that you're stressed out, but when you're looking to talk, squeeze the ball, and then it'll get you to process and be like, wait, I'm supposed to pause here. So that really helped me when I was like getting ready to talk. I would squeeze a stress ball, I relax, I take a pause, and then they would end up talking more. And if I would have talked, I might have lost that opportunity. Two is, everyone's different on how they do this. Write down what someone is saying when they're talking to you. So as someone is talking to you, what we typically do as humans is we try to figure out, okay, how can I, right, insert myself as soon as they're done talking. Wait, write the things down, and you'll take that pause that you need to take as well. And I would also say the third thing about the pause, right, because you want to fill that gap, is embrace the silence. It ultimately is a real power move, right? If you can embrace that silence and really listen to what they have to say, it's a pattern up because most people don't do it. So that's another thing to consider. It is a hard thing to transition to, but once you do it, you'll realize the benefit of it.
Love that. Really, really love that. Need to invest in a stress ball then. That's the first.
Stress ball. Yeah, everyone needs to get a stress ball. That's the homework.
Awesome. Yeah, look, my top tip is we didn't plan this at all, but I was thinking about my top tip just before this, and kind of similarly, it goes into this idea of patience. And one thing that I kind of, again, drawing from my own experience, really struggled with was when people gave me objections or rebuttals, I tended to jump into trying to handle them like immediately.
Yep.
And as you become, and as you're doing the role for longer and longer, and I always say to my team, the hardest time to be an SDR is month 6 to month 12, right? You've got into the job, like, it's a lot of repetition, a lot of reps. In that period, you're so used to, you almost like pre-predict what people are saying, and then you jump in, and then it often makes you sound robotic. So my top tip is, if on any objection that you get this year, always follow it up with a question first that relates to the objection. So for example, can you send me over an email with some more information, right? Can you, like, nobody really, well, the first thing that I'm saying in that context is I'm responding, okay, and what would you like to see in that email, right? That's giving me time to pause straight after, exactly on the back of what you mentioned earlier, Morgan. It's giving you that time to pause, and actually what they might do is they might give you more information about that objection, right? So you can therefore like handle it better. Someone says, this sounds like it's too expensive for me. So first thing I'm saying, instead of going, oh, well, it's not expensive, and trying to justify the cost, so how much would you right now pay for this this product, right? Again, hopefully it starts to really open up prospects and give me the real reason why they think it's expensive. So top tip from me, follow any objection up with a question.
I love that. I agree 100%, because you got to really clarify to see what's going on there.
Exactly. Awesome. All right, so let's dive into some of these and what people I'm sure are really here for, which is the role play. Our first volunteer, and like hopefully technology does not fail us here, but our first volunteer is Dennis Barley. Can Dennis Barley come on is he here?
Yes, I'm here. How are you?
Amazing.
Dennis, what's going on?
Right. Good. How are you?
Very well.
Good,
very well. Dennis, where are you from? Give us a bit of an introduction.
I'm from near Cape Cod in Massachusetts. I am the Vice President of Healthcare Strategy at a company called Ideal Protein. We're a medically supervised weight management company that we're B2B, so we are working with physicians and all healthcare providers to help their patients. So we implement a system in their practice.
Amazing. I've heard it's very cold in Massachusetts at the moment.
Oh yeah, snow is coming, and it's very, very, very cold.
All right, well, let's try and warm you up here. So Morgan's going to be the prospect for you. But yeah, like if we want to kind of start the call off by giving us a ring, no pressure on the dial, on the ring itself. It could be a ring, be a ring, whatever you want to do. You can really style it out. And then Morgan will pick up his phone, and we'll get the show on the road.
Okay. So I'm assuming, okay, very well. Ring.
Hello?
Hello. With whom am I speaking?
This is Morgan.
Hey, Morgan, how are you? I'm just wondering if you can help me. I'm looking to get just 5 minutes with your practice manager, just 5 minutes of her time, sometime that's convenient for her.
Well, I first would like to know what we're talking about in those 5 minutes. That'd be good.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm sorry. I totally spaced that out. My name is Dennis Barley. I'm the Vice President of Healthcare Strategy at Ideal Protein. And we are a medically supervised weight management program to help your overweight, obese, and metabolic syndrome patients. So, my first question would be, what are you currently using to treat your patients with those conditions?
Yeah, that's a solid question. We have, a normal procedure of what we're doing. It's something that we've been doing for the past, 40, 50 years, and it's been in-house. So we really haven't used any technology or any other providers. What we found that we're doing internally has seemed to be working, and we haven't had really much complaints here.
Okay. Well, how open-minded are you to new avenues of approach for that type of healthcare?
Yeah, it's a possibility if I could see that maybe it's more efficient or maybe it possibly could be faster. I'm always open to new ideas.
That's awesome. I'd like you to just imagine, if we could offer that treatment plan that has it's got proven track record. We're published in peer-reviewed journals. Not only that, it will help your patients. Most of our patients that we've been dealing with tell us they feel great and their health is improved. And it's also an ancillary source of income for your practice. So I know you may be doing something else, but this is an avenue where it's a natural avenue where we can help a patient improve their health through nutrition.
So you mentioned proven results. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that?
Sure. Recently in September, we had two studies published in peer-reviewed journals. One was done out of Tulane University, and it compared our diet to the standard American Heart Association diet of low-cal, low-fat. And we beat that. We improved cardiovascular markers such as total cholesterol, triglycerides, waist circumference, which is your worst type of fat, your visceral fat. We had statistically significant improvements in that. And then in another study that was done out of the University of British Columbia, we had pharmacists de-prescribing their diabetic patients by utilizing our protocol. And we have other studies, but those two were recently published just in September of 21.
Okay, cool.
So again, just getting back to your question, I know this may not be for you, but if I could just get, and I swear I'll only take 5 minutes of your practice manager's time, so that we can discuss or I can just briefly show her an overview, and then maybe perhaps the chief medical officer would want to take a look at another time where I can get in front of them and your board and present.
Yeah,
does that sound like something that I could get done? I have Tuesday and Thursday from 1 to 3 available next week. How does it look for her?
Yeah, that Wednesday time slot looks good on her end.
Right on. Okay, so can we pencil that in, and I'll take the information down, and then I will drop back by, or I'll call back and speak to your practice manager. See what
Sounds
we
good
can
to
get
me.
done. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Thank you, Dennis. Bye. All right, cool. Well, I'm gonna give Dennis a round of applause because he went first. It's not easy, so we'll give him a round of applause. We'll clap it up. Hopefully, everyone in the chat, we'll get some claps to Dennis as well if you just want to put a clap in the chat. But David, I'll let you go first because I'm still processing through what I wrote down in the call. So you could go, and then I'll give my feedback here.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so firstly, reiterate what Morgan said. It's thank you so much for coming on and being so brave. It's a really difficult thing to do under pressure. Also, apologies that Morgan isn't an expert in your field, so couldn't give you really clear objections and feedback.
Okay.
I
was expecting a lot more.
I
know. I was like, I'm not a physician. I don't know where to go with it.
Morgan's face when he was scrambling around for an answer to what are you currently doing was a picture. So Okay.
Brilliant.
I hope it was still relevant, the answer, but yeah. I think so. So first things first, I don't mind, like, I really don't mind the way that you led straight away with exactly what you wanted to the outcome of the call to be. Sometimes it's there's positives and negatives from doing it. Positives is like, you're not being around the bush, right? It's a very direct way. You're not trying to like trick anybody on your intentions, and but and actually, like, by being that direct, I think it forced Morgan to ask the question, which actually is the perfect question for you, which is, okay, well, why? Well, why should I give you 5 minutes? And then that gives you license to then open up, or then to dive into exactly why you're here and exactly what you do. I think the one thing that really stood out to me is when you were given that opportunity to start explaining the benefits of your product, that your responses, there was the kind of I would describe it like a list of somewhat slightly generic responses, and everybody in your field, I'm sure, has a product that makes people healthier, right? Or like I hope that every patient really enjoys the like all of your competitors that you have, right? And so the biggest change for me that I think that could have the biggest impact is really focusing on like the why behind that point, those points that you're making. And so you mentioned, like, this is a good source of auxiliary, like, extra income for businesses. That sounds like to me, and again, I'm not in your field, but that sounds like a really great thing. But what does that mean? Like, how much could that be for my kind of business, right? If I'm backing those points up, I think we're really validating the points that we're making. And I think that's going to be really important for our prospect when they're only giving us a very short window of time. And I think, again, that's why Morgan ended up asking the question, okay, so you mentioned health benefits, like, or you mentioned it's proven, like, what does that mean, right? And I think you could get ahead of that very quickly by really nailing the point. And on that kind of list of, I think one thing that's really common especially when you're kind of, when you're selling a product, you as the person who works for the business, all the benefits in the world, right? There's so many benefits to every single product, but picking one or two that are going to be very relevant to that person is sometimes a lot better than listing 4 or 5 different benefits. So perhaps what you can think about, and my advice is, like, maybe pick a couple that really resonate with really like hit well, and just double down on those points, as opposed to having, like, a big long list of different benefits. I think that you'll see that for prospects there'll be a much greater impact. So I think that's probably my, like, the thing that I really latched onto. And I don't know, Morgan, what your thoughts are.
Yeah, and sorry, Dennis, I couldn't be the physician you were looking for.
That's okay.
I really was like, I don't know how to say this right now. Yeah, go ahead.
So I probably should have given you a little more of a background. Is in the U.S., very allopathic medicine when it comes to obesity, the disease of obesity. Basically, it's drugs, surgery, very little on dietary intervention, because physicians generally feel that it is, that commercial stuff that does not work long term, et cetera, et cetera. We're a different animal. So everything that you were saying, David, before about the benefits, I would wait and discuss that with the practice manager. I was assuming I'm in a busy physician's office. I'm either walking in or I'm on the phone, and that person who I'm speaking, Morgan, who I'm speaking to, he only has tops 3 minutes. So I took more of his time, actually. Then the conversation gets deeper as we go to practice manager, second gatekeeper. Then we finally get to the physician.
Sure.
So it's really difficult. I mean, we're not looked at as anything. If I was a pharmaceutical salesperson, I could walk in there and say, hey, I've got this for your diabetics. But because I'm weight loss, it's a different animal.
Okay, interesting. I think, I suppose, maybe to add slightly more context. So Cognism, for anybody that doesn't know Cognism, we're a sales and marketing acceleration platform. We have lots of competitors, companies in our space, but most importantly, our key offering is we provide access to a database of 400 million mobile numbers, or 400 million profiles with mobile numbers, contact data, like emails, contact data for prospects that you want to reach out to. So hopefully super relevant for lots of people here. In our space, there's so many people, and everybody is always, everybody in our space claims they have the best data physically available. Everybody claims they are, they've got the most coverage. They've got more, more profiles than anybody else. Everybody's doing that. So what I really try and get my SDRs to focus on when we're doing the cold calling is not just saying we've got, we have the best data on the market, but kind of really justifying that in the back end. So we have the best data on the market. The reason is because our product is powered by AI, and instead of necessarily just a manual research team like lots of our competitors. And so what it means is that we're refreshing 900,000 data points every single day, which means that the data is as up to date as physically possible. And so really doubling down on that, I don't think it impacts the calls later down the line, but it really justifies my claim in that initial moment and hopefully grabs the attention of the prospect better. And that's the kind of thing that I think could potentially help. But yep, like all things cold calling, testing and seeing if it works is probably the most important thing. But Morgan, yeah. Sorry, I've interrupted there.
No, you're good. I would say I want to talk about something that was really important, and hopefully everyone paid attention to it, and I need to amplify it, is Dennis's pace and tone. If Dennis were to call me, there's nothing pushy or aggressive about what he was doing. The 5 minutes, you could see that as a pushy or aggressive, but in reality, it wasn't, because he delivered it in a way that wasn't really like, what? Like, I'm going to hang up on you. I did say, 5 minutes, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you're going to talk about for 5 minutes, but that's different than me being like, what? I don't want to talk to you at all, right? I gave him an opening, so I think the 5 minutes was part of that there. Now, the thing I had written down here is you mentioned proven, and then when I said, what does that mean? Or, hey, what is proven? You went into a whole spill. One thing that you could do is when people push back on you, say, what does proven mean? You could flip it back on them and be like, what does proven mean to you? Right? So then you could get an understanding of what they are looking for. And then instead of giving me 3 examples, because 2 of those I could have been like, I don't care. Then you could just give them 1 example as well. And the last thing that I would give you, and you probably noticed me doing it, is when you finish the statement, you would just leave it there.
Yeah.
Expecting me to be like, oh, that's amazing. But I didn't do anything. I was like, yeah, cool. And then you're like, and then you went to the next thing. And the thing is, I do that because I always recommend for people to ask a question after their statements, because you want to be the guide. You don't want the prospect to be the guide. You don't, because they're gonna drive you off the road in the call. So you want to be the guide to be like, hey, this is where we're gonna go next. So that's just something else that I would recommend on this call, is when you finish a statement, ask me a question, so then I have to answer it, and you go in the direction you want to. But if you just state something and you just leave it at that, I could be impressed by it, sure, but I also could just be like, cool, because now I don't know where to go from there, or I don't want to continue this conversation. So I'm just like, yeah, whatever. So it's something to be mindful of.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good point. Appreciate it. Appreciate both of your points. Yeah,
absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Well, we really appreciate you being so brave, and thank you so much for helping us out here. All right, so I think we'll move on to the next volunteer. So is David McDougall around? Just before David joins, or as he joins, and we have had a question that I'd love to throw to you, Morgan. We've got someone in the banking industry who rarely gets someone to answer a call. Any recommendations on how to orchestrate email, LinkedIn, voice notes? That's from Bill.
Bill, if you have this would be excellent. And if you don't, that's fine. But this is where I would go before you can answer your question. I would go look at, let's just pull it all the way back. I would go look at the data from the past 8 to 12 months. Now, if you have a sales engagement tool, then you should be able to do this pretty easily. It should be in your CRM. If not, if both of those things are happening, then it's pretty tough. But you should be able to see who are responding and where. So you're getting meetings, but from where? So I would look at the data and be like, okay, 70% of our meetings come from email. So that means my campaigns would have more emails than LinkedIn touches, calls, and voicemails. And my voicemails would lead to all of my different things I'm doing via email, right? Because I know I'm not getting people on the phone, but at least I can leave a voicemail to get them to respond to the email. LinkedIn would be the same way. So I would actually take a full step back and see, who are we scheduling meetings with and from where? Once I figure out, okay, it's 70% email, I'm going to do more emails, right? From that standpoint. Now, orchestrating it is a completely different conversation, because that's like cadence building, and that's really deep. And I also would have to know your region, all those different things across the board. But what I would tell you is, have a multi-touch approach. You need to add calling, email, LinkedIn, and voicemails together. I would not do them. And so you just need to figure out which one's going to be the more top-heavy one based on percentages. So that would be my advice there.
It's awesome. Awesome. I believe we've got David.
You do indeed.
Amazing.
David, what's happening?
Nice to meet you all. We've just moved up the coast of Massachusetts. I'm in a small town called Newburyport, so just north of Dennis.
Yeah, we got Massachusetts on the call today.
Right on, right on. Go Mass. So anyways, I'm Dave McDougall. I'm the VP of software sales for a company called Resurety, who I've just started a few months ago, and I'm getting onboarded for Cognism right after this call. How do you like that?
Music to my ears, David.
So David loves that.
Won our business over. There's another couple of competitors that we compared carefully, and so you guys won out. So well done.
Fantastic. You're really helping me here. That's the easiest advertisement I'll ever get. So yeah, fantastic. David, do you want to give us a bit more context around the product that you sell, and who you sell to, so that so we can help Morgan not scramble around too much in this.
It won't be quite as complex as Dennis's one, but so we're just launching 3 software products, and the one I was going to talk about is called Remap, which is Renewable Energy Market Analytics Platform. And what it is the world of energy has numerous data points on price and energy and everything else, and it's really difficult for renewables to know where they slot in. And so Remap, as the name implies, is a map-based software that tracks thousands of data points so that developers, investors, and even commercial C&I type customers can look across. It's a US-based product. Look across the map and see how prices and carbon intensities and other factors are trending, and what they look like in historically as well.
That's actually really interesting.
It's very.
You're gonna buy
a
subscription right now, Morgan. Darn it!
It's actually an interesting product. That's cool.
It is.
Okay, so yeah. What? I guess what's my role though? Who do you typically call?
You are going to be a renewable energy investor. So investors buy either a portion or an entire renewable energy project, utility scale. So these are in the $100 million range type of thing, multi-megawatt sales. And so when they buy something, they need to understand what are the complexities of the prices that they'll earn. How are they going to earn money? So they need a lot of data. And normally they've used a disparate number of resources that feed in to one of their analysts, who will then assess all the different data together.
And normally I'm assuming that they don't have the data, or they have been doing it without data and been fine.
They normally have data, but what it is it comes from different resources. So we've combined the data. And so the value proposition really is having immediate and combined data available. And there's also an aspect of accuracy that is involved too. terms of making it more accurate than the other tools.
Okay, makes sense to me.
Amazing. Should we dive in then?
Whenever you're ready.
I'll make the call. Ring, ring.
This is Morgan.
Morgan, good morning. I'm Dave McDougall with Resurety. If you're not familiar with Resurety, we have an in-house expertise in power generation, weather, power markets, and finance. And interestingly, we've just recently launched Remap to help investors in evaluating and closing new renewable energy investment opportunities. I appreciate that you may be really busy. Do you have 5 minutes for a brief introduction?
I am really busy. This sounds interesting, but tell me a little bit more about this. I'm already using multiple sources and I've done pretty well so far, and I don't know if I want to switch that up.
I really appreciate that comment. So one of the differences is I just heard you say is you're using multiple sources. Like most investors, this process requires considerable due diligence, and using multiple vendors with inconsistent and possibly very complex data can really cost you time and maybe even making a poor decision in evaluating certain renewable energy projects. Is that something that can be a problem for you?
I could see it potentially being one. You know, one thing that I believe in is trusting the people that I work with. I've been working with these different data sources for the past 10 years, and it's been good so far. Obviously, I'm always open to hear certain things, but we've done really well in the investments we've made from these different resources.
That's right. And I think that's fantastic. And I think that the market itself, people have come to know their existing vendors and have been satisfied with that. But if you could imagine the opportunity to have all the market data in one single platform immediately available to you and more accurate than the typical 87-60 forecast that you might be getting, that could be a game changer for you. So rather than taking 2 weeks to do due diligence, you could have immediate access to compare any given renewable energy project that's available, that's in the United States right now.
I mean, that's very interesting. 87 is a lot. Then no someone ends up happening. They got to filter through a lot of things.
Yeah, as you know, right, there's thousands of data points, and this is what Remap is so powerful with, as well as concurrent generation, which I know you're very familiar with, is an important factor, and we have that available. So here's my question for you. If that does sound interesting, and I feel like you have a sense that this could be very helpful to you, and I know you just said you were busy, is there a chance that you and I could spend a half an hour and go through a brief discovery call? Let me understand what your work streams look like, and then I can introduce you to Remap more specifically and see if it would really be a game changer for you.
Yeah, it sounds interesting, but like you said, I have a lot of things going on. Can you send me some information and I can just follow up with you?
I certainly could send information. I understand that you'd like to see some information. What would be helpful as well is maybe what we could do at the same time is I could send you a couple calendar times that maybe we could pick some time, and as well as find some time to meet. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, that's helpful.
Okay, so I know next week I've got plenty of time on Wednesday. If that works for you, I'll throw a few half-hour slots in there, as well as Thursday and Friday, if that would work.
Yeah, no, I'd appreciate that, and I can get back to you.
Thank you very much, Morgan. You have a great day, and appreciate your time this morning.
Absolutely, you as well.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Awesome. That was so good, David. Really, really great job. So first thing I'm going to say is we've had two experts on pace and tone.
I know.
David,
hang out with David.
David, your tone is honestly so fantastic. It really comes through the phone. The way that you inflect you naturally inflect your voice up and down is going to be really, really engaging. And some people struggle with that kind of thing. So, but also the pace you have a very deliberate way of speaking, and again that really helps engage prospects in the right way. So yeah, that was really awesome to hear. I think I've got 2 points that have maybe some improvement, and it ties back to my top tip for 2022 a little bit. So pretty much one of the first thing Morgan said was pretty much an objection about how he's using multiple sources and and like it's going well so far. I think that you would have been able to, you responded really, really well, and you did, but I think it would have been even better if you'd followed that objection up with a question. And the question that seems obvious to me is, and you obviously know your space better than me, but is, okay, and how long, how long does it take you to look at all of those separate sources? Or is there a time cost associated with having multiple sources that you see? Or, one thing that we often do when people are using competitors is we ask them, and they say that they like the competitors, is we say, okay, and on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate that competitor today? Because not many people give it a 10, right? So, okay, your current system, what would you rate that out of 10? Often they say, 8 or 9, and you go, okay, and what would make it a 10 for you? Is there anything that would drag that up to a 10? And then once they give you that information, you've found the chink in the armor, and you can often really double down on that exact point, right? And you've identified a pain. Maybe it's not the biggest pain in the world, but you've identified a pain, and that's very specific to the prospect. And then that helps you shape your pitch to exactly what the prospect would need. So that would be like kind of, I suppose, one of the first things that I thought about is just kind of take that moment to ask that question, to just reveal a little bit more information to make it as relevant as possible.
Great, thanks.
Awesome. Morgan, what have you got to add?
I literally have it like in all caps over here. I have a whiteboard desk. I put like pace and tone. It was really good. Like I hopefully y'all are taking notes on the pace and tone of how they're delivering this, because the advice we're giving is very tactical and nuanced, and these are things that both David could fix. But wow, pace and tone was great, so kudos to you on that. I like the way that you were able to articulate the value prop of what you did. Obviously, you explained it to me in the beginning, so I had an understanding of where we were going with it. I really like that. I co-signed what David was saying around that piece as well. I also want to point this out, David. I don't know if you tell your reps this, but I typically actually recommend reps to do that. And I didn't call it out last time, but I have to also show some love to Dennis, because he did it too. But David, you did this as well. And this was the turning point in the conversation for me, because I was like kind of like iffy. I was kind of like, I got people for it. And then he said, imagine. He flipped the whole thing on me. He was like, that's cool. Imagine this. So I would write this down if you're taking notes on this webinar, because you can go look this up as well. But when you use the word imagine, what it does is that person you're talking to, now they have a visual of what you're about to say. So I'm not in this field at all, but like when he said imagine, like I was visualizing, okay, like, yeah, I do have like 87 different reports I got to go look at. And he's telling me I have one. So now I'm visioning, all I have to do is get one report. Like, that's really intriguing to me. I need to hear what David has to say, because it might be relevant. So he used the word imagine. That was critical. I want y'all to start using more of that. And then he also said feel, right? He's like, hey, I feel like this can be good, right? So he labeled me, Chris Voss, he labeled me and said, hey, I feel like this could be applicable. And I was like, yeah, he's right? He labeled it. So that's acknowledged the next step. The one thing I have for you, because David said the other thing I was going to say, but let's talk about the end. I believe you could have had a way stronger close. I don't think you actually had to send me counter invites, and you can use exactly the example I just gave you, David, and then flip it back on the person. So when someone says, hey, this is intriguing, send me some information, you say, okay, I'm more than happy to send you information. However, typically when I send information over, it ends up flooding people's inboxes, and it's a lot of things they have to go through. And I personally don't want to have to do that, because I don't want to be an annoying sales rep. What we find to be beneficial with our prospects is for us to hop on a call for a 30-minute, demonstration, so you can see the visual of what I'm talking about. Does that sound fair? And most people, the reason I say does that sound fair is because most people don't want to be unfair. So I'm going to respond like, yeah, I can see a visual for 30 minutes because I just told you, right? You're going to get blown up in your inbox. And David knows this because he gets prospecting, he has sales calls. You don't want to get blown up in your inbox. So it's like, I'll take a 30-minute call versus getting blown up in my inbox. So that's the way that you can end that. But I think everything else is great. Like everything else I wrote down, I think you did a good job.
Really, really great job. Yeah, awesome.
I'd reiterate the advice. It's good stuff.
It's awesome. Yeah, I'd actually just add to what Morgan just said. And we use exactly that line here at Cognism. That's the line that we teach our SDRs. Is kind of, we really want to justify. We want to justify to our prospects why coming and seeing a demonstration of our product is going to be so much more powerful than us sending some generic information. And I think as long as you explain that clearly, what the benefit is to the prospect of coming and seeing it, generally people are pretty fair, as to use Morgan's word, and are up for doing it. So yeah, couldn't agree more. David, thank you so much for helping us out today, and being brave. It's you did as I say, a really awesome job. So really appreciate it.
We got good tones here, good inflections here. This is a masterclass in tones and pace.
Yeah, we're hiring. I'm hiring at the moment. So if you guys, if you work out, we've got an office in Boston, so it's fine. All right, cool. We've got some more questions. I think we do have one more volunteer, but we've got some questions. So I'll just quickly dive into some of these because I'd love to answer them. So first one is from Jacob, I believe. It says, did you ever find voicemail to work, for outreach? And if you did, how do you generally use voicemail? Morgan, what's your views on that? It's always in our space. I find it's a topic that kind of splits people apart, right?
Yeah, it's tough. And you know this better than I know this, David, is that if we're talking about in the States, I could talk about it at that level, but we all know when it gets to Europe, it's a different conversation. Right? There's some countries that will not listen to a voicemail, right? Versus that will. And you all know your region better than I do, but I also know that because I've been over in Europe, I talked to the reps, and I get that, right? So my answer is very predicated on your market and also the type of C-suites you're reaching out to as well, right? Like a CISO, a CTO, you leave a voicemail, they're probably not going to call you back, versus a CRO. If you leave a good voicemail, they might call you back. So my answer to this question is I don't focus on getting a call back. I focus on what the voicemail does, which is increase my email reply rates. People are more willing to reply to your email than call you back all day long. I'd rather call people back, but not everyone is me. And we also have to acknowledge that. So I would say I find it effective when I leave a voicemail to tell them to go check out an email. And typically what we recommend our clients, and where they see the 1.5, 2x email response rates increase, is by having the voicemail, let's say it's day 2. So they'll call, but the same day they leave them an email right after that voicemail to increase their email reply rates. So yes, it can work, but you also have to, the first part of the conversation, you got to keep those things in mind.
Yeah, for sure. I don't want to speak for every British person, but I don't think I've ever listened to my voicemail, ever. Maybe I did when I was 16, first got a phone. So yeah, voicemail wouldn't be much use on me. But we have a hack. I suppose the hack that we have is we're fortunate enough at Cognism to have outreach. With outreach, you can record a standard generic voicemail once, and then it will automatically leave it for you. And so, maybe that's my advice, is if you've got something like that, definitely use it. There's absolutely no harm. It's just another touch point, if it does work. But I wouldn't, it's not something that we really heavily focus on a lot of the time. So yeah. All right, next question, and I'm going to pick this one up because it's I think it's quite important. It talks about being in a space where they often end up speaking to receptionists and switchboards. I think it would be crazy for me to not give my views on this, as I think my biggest advice, if you keep getting through to switchboards and receptionists, you're really struggling with it, you need to invest in a tool that offers you mobile numbers, right? Mobile numbers, especially nowadays, the world that we live in nowadays, everybody working from home, it's so difficult. I mean, what we're finding is we're calling switchboards, and switchboards are saying, then just drop them an email. They're not in the office to speak to. Again, it might be different country to country, but if you can, and there's lots of providers out there, and I always recommend, just as David, our previous caller, did, check them all out, but certainly take a look at Cognism, take a look at other providers, and then buy Cognism, and just be able to utilize those mobiles, get straight through to people. That's the biggest piece of advice I can give on that. All right, so I think we've got a Tanya waiting for us. Tanya, I'm so sorry, I don't even want to. That's
hard stop. So here we go. Here we go.
Hello, hi everybody.
Hello,
Hi, Tanya.
hello.
How are you doing?
Fine, how are you doing?
Good.
Good,
Yeah,
doing
really good. Where are you calling from today, Tanya?
I'm calling from Serbia. Not Siberia in Russia, not Saudi Arabia, but Serbia, like the eastern part of Europe.
Amazing. I've
Awesome.
never been to Serbia. Tell us more about Serbia. What would you recommend doing if we ever came over?
Eating.
Eating?
Eat
Yeah.
everything or this is so like, where should I go to eat?
Sorry?
You said eating, so I was like, but what should I eat? There's a lot of options.
Yeah, there are multiple, but people here tend to eat a lot of meat. So if you're a vegetarian, then Serbia is not a great place for you. But yeah, we can find something.
I love
if
it.
you're vegetarian, yeah.
Amazing. And Tanya, tell us more about your business, where you work for, who you work for, your product.
Yeah. So I used to work as a SDR for 4 years, and I stopped doing that like a year ago. And then in the meantime, I started my own company. Basically, we're called Scale Up, and what we do is we are basically narrowing the gap between marketing and sales, meaning that we do not want to look at marketing and sales as separate units, but something that actually is supposed to work together. And we are outsourcing people and marketing and sales experts to other companies that are in SaaS and mostly working in a B2B.
Cool.
Hey, amazing. So I'm assuming
This is
you're.
straightforward.
Yeah, I think me and Morgan we can do this,
Think I
right,
got
Morgan?
this one.
Yeah, okay. And so I'm assuming your target. Well, who are you generally reaching out to? Are you reaching out to sales side, marketing side? Do you revenue in general, or yeah, who are you commonly calling?
Yeah, so we exist for 4 months now, and so far we found our clients from people who are acquaintances to us or friends of our friends. So let's put it that way. But right now, when Q1 is starting, we are doing outbound and inbound strategy in order to attract potential clients, and we are basically targeting small businesses who have up to 10 people, employees, and we are reaching out mostly to CEOs because they're main decision makers, and most probably those guys do not have developed sales department, or they at least have somebody maybe who is working marketing and sales together, but everything's like everybody's doing everything because it's a small company.
Cool.
Awesome. You got this right, Morgan.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah. All right, perfect. Okay, should we get this show on the road? Do you want to give us a ring, Tanya, and then we'll go from there?
Yeah. Okay. Ring ring.
Hello?
Hello. Hi. Am I speaking to Morgan?
That is me.
Hi, this is Tanya calling from Scale Up. So we never had a chance to talk. So before you hang up on me, could you please give me at least 3 minutes of your time? Because I did some research on you and it seems like we have a business potential to discuss.
Such as what?
I dig that you are working in a tech industry and that you are having a SaaS product. And so far, Scale Up has been working on solutions to help companies like yours to increase the database of clients by offering experienced marketing and sales experts. And we basically take care of both attracting and qualifying potential customers until they are like 80% ready to purchase your product. So is that something that you would like to hear more about?
Yeah, I mean, right now, my marketing and sales is doing really well. I mean, my team's hitting my number. Campaigns seem to be getting the demand that we want. I think we may be set.
Okay. So can you tell me? Sorry, just 1 second.
The real cold call.
Yeah. So can you tell me like how long does it take for your sales team to close a deal?
Well, our average sales cycle is around 3 to 4 months. right? So it's about 90 days. And so it takes our team right now about 85, 90 days to close the deal.
Okay, okay. And do you have people who are working in your sales and marketing department? They are only committed to that, or how does that work?
Only committed to what?
To marketing and sales.
So yeah, right now we have one marketer who's over everything right now. We may be planning to hire a couple more for like a content perspective and an ad perspective, but right now we're just focusing on organic because that's working really well. And then on our sales side, we have 3 sales reps because the demand's going well. They are doing prospecting, but we're getting a pretty good inbound there.
Okay, okay. So at this point of time, you believe that at this point of time, do you think that there is a possibility for you to expand your sales and marketing activities? Have you considered that because 2022 is just starting? So are you thinking about increasing your sales and marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like most people are always looking to increase. I'm not going to turn down more sales, right? I'll always take more sales. But in terms of the strategy we have right now, I think we're set in what we're doing, and we are hiring people to accelerate that. But our system has been working pretty well.
Okay, so basically you're mixing both inbound and outbound, if I got you right.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, and your inbound approach is basically organic.
Organic, yeah. So we have a lot of good stuff that's going on with webinars we're doing, partners that we're working with. So it's been really good in our space so far. Could change obviously as we go up market, but right now we've been doing really well.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. There are not many companies that accomplish such a thing at least at this early stage. So my question here is, are you able, because what happens in reality and what I'm facing when working with companies is usually they do not have retainers, or at least they have clients who come to them and they stay for a couple of months. So what is the situation at your end?
Yeah, so as of right now, we do have retainers, and that could obviously be a leaky bucket depending on if they sign back on, because we've been ramping pretty fast. It's been going well, but we're looking to set up systems in place to have those retainers. I mean, we either go for a 6-month or an annual, and then some people we have on the monthly because they may not really understand what we're exactly doing yet. They want to test it out. So that's kind of what we're doing right now.
Yeah, that's definitely important, especially for companies that are at early stage to have some profits to rely on, because their growth actually depends on how much money and profits they're making, and if they can make assumptions or at least forecasts for the following months. So that is basically what we are doing, and we work with companies who have annual plans. So therefore, we close deals which are like enterprise deals and big deals that on which they can rely on for next 6 to 12 months. So if that's something that might be interesting to you, I would definitely suggest hopping on a call. That's okay with you.
Yeah, I feel like right now the best thing for you to do is to send me some information. If there is additional brochures that you have, that would be excellent. And then, maybe in a couple months, it might be relevant for us.
Okay, so you feel like at this point of time that is not something that is top of your priority?
I would say not within this quarter. Again, next quarter it could be, so the information would be helpful.
Okay, and just one thing, just one more question before we finish with the call.
Yep.
Like, what does have to happen within next 3 months so you would be able to move forward?
Say it again.
So what has to happen within next 3 months? Because you said you would be interested in moving forward in next quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering, like, what has to happen within next 3 months so therefore you would be feeling like ready to move forward?
It would be more so reevaluating the quarter than what has to happen. Within this quarter, we have certain metrics that we're looking to hit, so we're focused on those top 3 priorities. And once we get into the next quarter, we could reevaluate to see, like, does it make sense for us to have the conversation? So it more so is like us accomplishing those goals to see, okay, what does the actual quarter look like for us as we go on the quarter-to-quarter basis?
Okay, that sounds fair. Okay, so yeah, it seems like a no at this point of time. I'll be happy to get back to you within the next 3 months. And of course, in the meantime, if anything changes, I would be happy to hop on a call with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Awesome. That was really great, Tanya. Thank you so much for sharing. So just a quick question for you, Tanya.
Mm-hmm.
When you're making a cold call, what is your key objective? Like, what do you try and sell on the call? Like, is it like you're trying to really, like, what's the general next step that you're aiming for on most cold calls?
Yeah, I always aim to a meeting. That's
A meeting?
Yeah. Meeting is something that where we can expect something to happen.
Okay, great. Okay, so look, so first things first, I want to say that the best thing that you do, and again, we've got someone that's by the way, amazing tone-wise. I thought that your opening was really personable. You almost had your opening line, you almost said, well, it almost sounded like you were laughing, and that came across as really personal and very friendly, and definitely something that you should keep doing. The best thing that you do is the amount of questions that you ask to try and understand prospects' needs. But the biggest thing that I would suggest changing is the types of questions that you ask. So let me give you an example. The first question that you asked Morgan to try and open him up is, you said, is that something, so you explained what you did, and then you said, is that something you would like to hear more about? That first question that you ask someone is going to be so important. And what you really want to do is you want to start opening up the conversation and asking that kind of question, which in its nature is a closed question. There's only, there's two answers, yes or no, right? If they say yes, you're going to have to dive in and give them more information. But they can easily say no at that stage. And what I would suggest, and actually, like, we're in similar areas. The first question we ask our prospects on a cold call is, and what are you currently, like, what can you tell us more about your how you're currently going about sales and marketing, right? That's the first question we ask. Really open-ended, very broad. And then that way people can just start revealing information on what they're doing. Like, keep it as wide and open as physically possible. And that's true of all the questions you asked. I think some were better than others, but try and really focus on questions that are going to be really nice and open, and really get Morgan talking about the right things.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Thank you.
Two things. One is to dive deeper to the questions is asking me layering questions. So when I said I'm doing really good, I would have asked, okay, like, you're doing good, but what are you looking to do in 6 months? What are you looking to do in a year, right? So by focusing just on what I'm doing right now, I'm doing well, but am I prepared 100% for the next 6 months? I might not be, right? So it's maybe going a little bit further so that you can get me down to that. So I think a lot of layering questions would have helped, which is my second point, is being more granular in what you were offering. So you were like, hey, I've done some research. And obviously this was a mock call, so like you didn't really have time to do real research. But my point was that to come with something that was pointed, because when I asked that question, you hesitated for a little bit. And then you were like, okay, what research do I have, right? And then you also mentioned businesses that have done similar things to me and gotten these results. But this is for everybody. It doesn't really matter if a business has done something else, right? Like me, they have to be in the same ecosystem industry as me as well. So I think by asking more layering questions and getting more granular with the answers would have helped you there. And that's why I was kind of throwing those objections to see, okay, where you're going to ask the layering questions that would have opened me up. So that was like the last thing I wanted to say.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I felt like you were closed. Yeah, like you were not open to talking to me. Yeah, I felt that.
I wasn't on purpose, because if you would have asked me an open question, I would have opened up, which is what I was waiting for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Awesome. Tanya, sorry to cut you off too early, but we are at time. We've hit our number, and I think Morgan's got a hard stop as well.
Yeah.
He's already late for a meeting. Tanya, thank you so much for coming on and being so brave. We really, really appreciate you helping us out today with this call. And to everybody in the audience, thank you for tuning in. There will be a recording of this if you want to share it with anybody. Please add Morgan, follow Morgan on LinkedIn. He post some amazing content that my team use every single day. Yeah, feel free to let us know if there's any feedback on the call and what you'd love to see for next time. So to everybody that joined us on the call, thank you. And we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one.